Hey, hey, what's really going on? Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, going to be taking a look at Cardano, ADA against US dollar tether on the Binance chart. Going to be taking a look at some of the technical aspects of price action moving forward. Going to be assessing some kind of key levels I believe we're going to be interacting with in the short term here, where we might find support and kind of finally break upward, or if we're going to get rejected off of a lower high and kind of break downward and or stay sideways for a prolonged period of time. Now, jumping right into it, to assess price action that has respected this kind of trend line, kind of back in the kind of COVID crash in 2020, middle of March there. We've been rallying kind of upward along it after getting rejected and falling through back in the beginning of September 2020. Traded below this ascending trend line for a good 127 days, 150 days kind of thing before we broke upward after seeing two rejections off of it from the beginning of January all the way up until the beginning of February of 2021. We've now seen a break upward back in February of this year. And we are still coming out of the kind of what appears to be exhaustion from this kind of uptrend, from this kind of breakout, from the kind of ascending trend line there. And so now we've, in a kind of more recent price action a few days ago, we've interacted with the top of it as support, kind of in a very aggressive wick, a very nice bounce, very nice buy pressure present. The Cardano was still overall quite bullish in my opinion, but we were still coming out of this this whole overall kind of market crash that Bitcoin has been having. This the tantrum that Bitcoin has been throwing over the past kind of week or so has been affecting all cryptocurrencies, and so I mean. Cardano does seem to be kind of holding nicely, staying sideways against Bitcoin, and still seeming to stay bullish even in all the all the red days and all the downside that has been present in the kind of past few days. And so long term, I'm kind of long term bullish. As if we maintain kind of above this kind of price range, this seems like a volatile kind of slippage zone that we could kind of slip right down through. And so, I mean, if we stay above kind of the $1 there, $1.07 is kind of that line, but $1 seems to be the round kind of psychological level that I kind of want to see prices hold kind of before we kind of take off. And so, I mean, this does seem to be a very, very strong bounce, very nice wick on the 23rd of April. And then there was a very nice bounce off of that kind of line I just drew yesterday. And so, I mean, the 26th of April. And so, we could very well find support here, see another rally, another spike, but there is significant resistance present, I still believe, around this kind of range here. And so that I do believe is going to be the next kind of resistance we're going to be interacting with. If we do find support here, perhaps we kind of come down, prices look like this, and we kind of get kind of stuck under it briefly, and we kind of start to trade upward. Perhaps we get rejected off of it. We come back down and we trade into a more kind of lower zone, a more bearish manner. But I am still kind of long-term bullish for Cardano in my opinion, although we could very well see some continued sideways over the next kind of couple of weeks as we are still recovering from the overall kind of sell-off. And so when we consider EngineeringRobo along with the fettuccine lines of sacred angles and geometry, we have a kind of new perspective kind of come into play here. And so realistically, we have every sort of sell signal present, as this was a very, very aggressive sell-off. This was a lot of panic selling, in my opinion. Plenty of perhaps new investors taking profit, trading at these kind of significant levels, causing everything to kind of be affected by it. And so these sell-offs were so significant that they caused a plenty of sell suggestions to print for EngineeringRobo. We have the supersell, sell 4, hell signal, sell 3 all the way back in the beginning of March of 2021. And so realistically, that could suggest some kind of continued prolonged sideways or further downside for price action moving forward. But in my opinion, I do believe we are kind of finding support quite nicely, and I do think we can hold. And these buy signals are going to start to come back pretty soon here, as alt season is going to take flight, and things will start to recover kind of pretty soon. But this was a very aggressive sell-off and a very significant sell-off, and there was enough sell pressure to print these sell suggestions. And so, I mean, if we just consider some of these kind of buy to sell lines here, we have the moon to hell, gives you 1,084% in 200 days kind of thing. So like 11x your money in less than a year. From some of these super buys, I mean, there's 3 super buys, like one near the moon back in the end of September. There's one at the beginning of November, and then there's one at the end of December of 2020. Even if you caught the last one to this most recent super sell, you're up 500% in 112 days. So that's like, like 6x your money in, kind of just a few months there. And so we do have this kind of buy 3, sell 3 kind of flipping as we've been breaking upward and then trading sideways kind of thing. And so I mean that's kind of seems to be kind of common. But there's been plenty of overall long-term bullishness so far. I mean, so even if we consider this this kind of buy 4 that has held since the beginning of November, this has you up kind of a good 900% in 166 days. So good like 10x your money. And so I mean, there's plenty of gains to be made in Cardano. That's why there's tons of traders taking profit here. This is definitely a sell level. This is definitely a key zone to be taking profit, and that's why kind of there's all this sell pressure present. If we consider the fear and FOMO zone for Cardano here, and we can kind of see why we're so sideways, why we're so stuck. We are kind of forever up. We're not we're forever kind of pinned by the sell pressure of the FOMO zone here, but FOMO is present, and so I mean these tops are being bought, these bottoms are being bought, and we're staying sideways, and so I mean there's plenty of traders taking profit just as there is traders buying. That's what's causing this this sideways, this indifference in the market, and so we are approaching the kind of end of it. If we dip out of it ever so briefly, I do believe that will be kind of very bullish and short term. That'll be kind of a volatile spike necessary to kind of take us upward. Although we could very well fall out of the FOMO zone and kind of trade in a more kind of bearish manner for a prolonged kind of period of time before we start setting some higher highs kind of thing. In my opinion, I think we're recovering quite nicely, and I do believe we can continue to recover, although those sell signals present and the FOMO zone and all these other kind of technicals present at the moment could suggest some kind of aggressive downside and some further downside. And this, we could fall through this kind of $1 range into the kind of sub-dollar above 70 cents there, and that will be kind of the next zone that we could kind of find support in if we were fail to hold kind of where we are here above $1. So overall, long term, still bullish on Cardano. In the short term, we kind of have to watch out for where we can find support here and where prices might interact with. If we consider the price of Cardano against the almighty volatile, doesn't know what it's doing, Bitcoin, we see kind of a nicer sort of what looks to be some nicer consolidation, some nicer kind of sideways. And so I mean, there does seem to be some very significant support above 2114 Satoshi, although we do seem to be interacting with some kind of resistance above, let's say, we're almost pretty much at it, I'd say. Yeah, I'd say we're interacting with the bottom of this kind of next range that we need to kind of solidify this kind of 2334 Satoshi. Like honestly, I do believe is that's kind of where we are right now. We could start closing into it. That would be more short-term bullish, and closing above it would be more long-term bullish. But I suspect perhaps a bit of a rejection, in my opinion, back to some kind of lower levels before we can interact with this kind of resistance again and kind of break upward through it. I do like this sideways. I like these higher lows. These wicks are very strong, recovering very strong, and so I mean, Cardano is still bullish, and still like bullish long term, and there are still plenty of traders holding Cardano, and there's still plenty of upward kind of to be made, in my opinion. When we consider EngineeringRobo along with the fettuccine lines of Fibonacci, we can see them correlating nicely, kind of with support and resistance lines present that I've drawn along the kind of the 2120 Satoshi level there, correlating nicely with the 0.618 line, which is going to be significant support moving forward, I believe. We have, buy signals present, so we have this buy 4 still present, honestly, and we're closing above the 200 moving average against Bitcoin. We have a moon, the moon, the hell has shown, so I mean, we have the sell 4 and the hell, so I mean, from the moon to the hell, you would have made, against Bitcoin, the moon to the hell, you would have made 138% in a kind of couple months there, and so that buy 4, perhaps so you consider that buy 4 to the sell 4 there, you would have 163% in kind of 2 months, and so I mean there's been plenty of kind of gains to be made in kind of over the past kind of few months, kind of few weeks in Cardano, and so I mean, like I said, this is definitely a kind of key level. The traders are taking profit, and there's plenty of sell pressure present. So there's no wonder why we're sideways. But I do like the kind of buy signals present and the bullishness that Cardano has against the price of Bitcoin. And this does look a lot more long-term bullish, and this does, there's far less scary sell signals present on this chart than there was for the USDT chart. But if we consider the price of Bitcoin itself against the USDT on the Binance chart, we can kind of see a new perspective come into play here. We have these ever so scary and ridiculous sell signals present, supersell, sell for, hell, all these crazy sell signals come into play as we get rejected off of all-time highs, and we seem to be coming out of a, like a 27% kind of pullback. We are 16% down from, that rejection point, that all-time high, kind of rejection swing high. But we do seem to be recovering quite nicely along this kind of 48, 50K kind of range. This bounce, I do believe, is going to pull all the way back to 52K, in my opinion. I suspect we're going to retrace down to this kind of Fibonacci level there. If we fail to hold, we can definitely come back down to this kind of 50K level. Although I suspect we could very well hold in this kind of range that we are here after we kind of bounce off of 52K, in my opinion. If we get the Fibonacci lines to draw, we can kind of see that the kind of swing high, the all-time high around 64K, and where we are now around the 0.786 kind of Fibonacci line there does seem to be the significant zone that we could see some kind of trading in for the next kind of few weeks to a couple months before we kind of break all-time highs again, and we can kind of see some more continued upward. Although we got to go with the flow of momentum and the flow of the market kind of thing. Bitcoin over the course of the years is going to be very long-term bullish, but we could very well see some further downside and sideways if we get rejected off of kind of these current levels and we fall into the kind of under kind of the 50K there, and we fall into these 40s. We could very well come down to the 0.618 Fibonacci line above kind of 42K, and which would be another kind of bottom, another bouncing point that we could see some significant support. Although I am liking this price action that's kind of similar to this here, this kind of move there. So I mean, if we were to draw that kind of over here, that would almost look like like a kind of come down, comes up aggressively, trades sideways, wicks down for a bit, and then continues to rally. I mean, this very well could be the pattern that unfolds, which is very similar to what happened over here. Although you have to, only time will tell kind of where prices will go, and nobody really knows where Bitcoin is going to go. And so I mean, it's either going to go up, down, or sideways at this point. We consider the fear and FOMO zone. We see it all the way up there at 84K. FOMO zone still rising. As the more it rises, I do believe the more kind of bullish we can almost be. And so I mean, when we interact with that FOMO zone, the inevitable FOMO zone, that's going to be a very pivotal moment for Bitcoin. That's going to be a very a lot's going to happen in that day that we interact with the FOMO zone there. We're going to have, multi $10,000 moves up or down or both at that point. That's when the real FOMO is going to be present. We're either going to have a hard rejection sending us back down to, the 60K, 50K levels, or we're going to see some crazy tops being bought and some crazy FOMO that brings us up to the six-figure range. And then, we're going to have to, further kind of reassess kind of from there. But thank you for hearing my analysis. Thank you for tuning in. Check out all the social media down below. Try EngineeringRobo, free, link in the description. Subscribe here on YouTube, and tune in for the next one.